Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Here we are on Canto 29. We are on text 39. Is my voice okay? Is it? Is the volume all right? Can hear properly? Or is it too low?
No, it's okay.
It's okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, na chasya kashchidaito, na dvesho, na cha bandavaha, avishati apramato aso, pramatam janam antakrit. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend. But he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have. So Krishna says the same thing in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, that I'm not partial to anyone. No one is my enemy. He says that. But one who is a friend is in me and I'm a friend to him. Because Krishna is everyone's father. So no father is going to be inimical to any of his children. You know, the father loves the children equally. But if there is a child who is always very loving, always wants to be with the father, always, you know, he says, Father, I want to be with you. Automatically, naturally, the father will also spend more time with such a son. You know, the affection, the exchange, affectionate exchanges will be there. But if there's another son says, Father, I don't want to see you. You just send me the money every month. You give me a nice house to stay. You make sure you give me allowance so I can pay my bills. And that's it. So the father will say, all right, my dear son, that's what I will do. So the ones who don't want to know Krishna, Krishna still maintains, still provides. And to the devotees who want to have loving relationship with Krishna, Krishna reciprocates. Forgetfulness of one's relationship with Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of one's repeated birth and death. The reason we are here in the material world, taking one body, giving it up, taking another body, giving it up, is because we have forgotten we have an eternal relationship with God, a relationship based on love. The relationships we find here in the material world are business transactions mostly. So we sometimes even don't know what is true love. But our relationship with God is a relationship based on love. A living entity is as eternal as the Supreme Lord. But due to his forgetfulness, he's put into this material nature and transmigrates from one body to another. And when the body is destroyed, he thinks that he is also destroyed. So, you know, we are eternal souls. We are not the body. The body is going to be finished. Krishna says that of that is material, there is no endurance. You know, material things, no matter how much we try to maintain, they will deteriorate at one point or the other. And for the spirit soul, it can never be annihilated. It's eternal. So we are the soul. We are eternal. We'll never be annihilated. Actually, this forgetfulness of his relationship with Lord Vishnu is the cause of his destruction. So we have forgotten our relationship with God, our relationship with Krishna. And because we have forgotten this relationship, we are here in the material world. And then each time we give up this material body, we think, oh, we are going to die. I'm dying. But oh, we are not dead, you know, then we are in another body. Anyone who revives his consciousness of the original relationship receives inspiration from the Lord. This does not mean that the Lord is someone's enemy and someone else's friend. He helps everyone. One who is not bewildered by the influence of material energy is saved, and one who is bewildered is destroyed. So Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita, in 4th chapter, he says that ye yathamam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajami aham. As one surrenders to me, I reward them accordingly. So if we want to be friends with Krishna, Krishna will reveal his friendly nature to us. If we want to be inimical towards Krishna, then Krishna will be inimical towards us. It's just the way it is. He does not want to be. Krishna does not want us to remain here permanently in the material world. He wants us to come back home. But we are so blinded by the material energy, we keep ignoring him. He keeps sending us his bona fide representatives. He comes himself to give us this message, come back home, come back home. But we close our eyes and we close our ears. We say we don't want to hear. But this is the only way that we can get out of the material world. Revive our relationship with Krishna. So it is therefore said, Harim Vina Namritin Taranti. No one can be saved from the repetition of birth and death without the help of the Supreme Lord. So someone may say, I don't want God's help. I can get liberation by myself. We may try. We may also think that we are liberated. We may also think we have become God. But that is all phantasmagoria. We can never become God. We can never become supreme. Yes, we can reach up to the Brahman platform, but we need God's mercy. It's only when we receive the mercy of God can we actually reach the Brahman platform. Otherwise, I can pretend, yes, I'm on the Brahman platform. Who's going to tell me anything? So the mercy of the Lord. Without his mercy, we cannot get out of this material world, cannot be saved from the repetition of birth and death. It is therefore the duty of all living entities to take shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu and thus save themselves from the cycle of birth and death. So material life is because we have rebelled against God. We tell God, who are you? Why should I take shelter of your feet? Everyone should take shelter of my feet. That's what we are thinking. Everyone should worship me. Why shall we worship God, we say. So that is material life. Then the more we hear and chant, we will be situated in our real position of love of God. Love of God is there in all of us heart, and it's the greatest treasure we have. We simply have to revive it. The more we hear and chant, follow the regulative principles under the direction of the spiritual master, and we can revive this love of God. Is that okay? And that is true liberation, because that is our true position. What does liberation mean? Liberation means to get liberated of this material body. So means liberated of material body and then being situated in our true position, self-realization. Who am I truly? So we are all eternal loving servants of God. We have an eternal loving relationship with God. So text 40, yad bhayad vati vato yam suryastapati yad bhayad varshate devo bhagano bhati yad bhayad. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the wind blows. Out of fear of him, the sun shines. Out of fear of him, the rain pours forth showers. And out of fear of him, the host of heavenly bodies shed their luster. So we may think, I'm so great, the whole universe is working because of me. People actually don't know how important I am. If I were not to do something, it's not going to happen. The world is going to collapse if I don't do that. But that's not the truth. The truth is everything is happening because of the Supreme Lord. The sun gets up on time and has its path. It has its, orbit. Never will go to another orbit. Why? The fear of God. He's a devotee of God. This is his service. So he's doing his service properly. Why does fire burn? Why? Who's asked fire to burn? Krishna. Who's made the arrangement that the sun is going to evaporate the water? Then it's going to become clouds. Then again, it's going to come as rain. We know all this condensation happening, but it requires great intelligence to do these things. So who is the intelligent person? That's Krishna, God. The Lord states in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dhyakshena Prakritihi Suyate. Krishna is giving us all this knowledge in Bhagavad Gita, but we don't want to accept it. Krishna is saying, nature is working under my direction. In schools, we were never taught that nature is working under God's direction. We were made to think that nature is automatic. This is the law of gravity. This is law of condensation, or whatever. This is osmosis. But never were we taught to ask the question, wow, these are amazing things, amazing phenomena. Who's the one who's doing it? Never taught. But here, Krishna, he's saying that everything's happening because of me. Same, Lord Kapila Dev is saying the same thing. Everything is happening because of God's will. The foolish person thinks that nature is working automatically, but such an atheistic theory is not supported in the Vedic literature. If nature were to work automatically, then suddenly what could happen? Even spaghetti could be being formed in the air just now. Everywhere you could see spaghetti floating around or some weird things happening. But we don't see anything like that. We don't. Why? Why don't we see new elements being created at every moment? If nature were automatic, all these things should happen. So it's just because nature is not automatic. It is just false propaganda by certain class of people who want to deny the existence of God, who want to deny the power of God. But everything is happening with the nature, with the supreme authority of God. That is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, and we also find here that the sun shines under the direction of the Lord, and the cloud pours forth showers of rain under the direction of the Lord. So now we have very good weather forecast. It's going to be rainy, it's going to be shiny, it's going to be thunderstorms, this is going to be the degrees, this, that. So it's simply narration of what's going to happen. But can they change? Or supposed to be the sun, now it's going to rise from the west instead of the east. Can anyone change that? No. We can simply give the news, narrate of what's happening. We can just simply do that. All this is God's plan. Everything is working under God's direction. All natural phenomena are under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Everything is happening by the will of the Supreme Lord. Without the will of the Supreme Lord, not even a blade of grass moves. Because suppose we say nature is independent, then we should see that these elements should combine, and in the air we should be seeing buildings just sprouting up by itself. If nature is independent, but she's not independent. The elements cannot combine by themselves. She's not. She appears to be. Why? Because of the Supreme Lord. He's made it so efficient. He's made it so efficient. She has two functions, Maya Devi. One function is to cover our vision of God. And another one is to facilitate our enjoyment by creating this material world, facilitating in the creation. She's the facilitator. And she covers our vision of God. Why? Because we don't want to see God. So he says, well, fine, you don't want to see me? Then there is this curtain of Maya. When we say, no, I'm sorry, I want to see you, I would love to see you, I have a relationship with you, then gradually, the curtain gets lifted. The more we surrender, the more the curtain will be lifted. And when we completely surrender, Krishna will reveal himself. He cannot not reveal himself to the love of his devotee. He loves the devotee. When a child calls to the parent with real love, real need, the parent will come because it's based in love. Love is the strongest force. And Krishna loves us and we love Krishna. So reading on Yadvanaspatayo bhita latascha dibihi saha sve sve kale Grananti pushpani cha falani cha. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trees, creepers, herbs, and seasonal plants and flowers blossom and fructify, each in its own season. So why is it, if nature was independent, why from an apple tree we are going to get apples only? Why can't we get mangoes from an apple tree? You know, or why can't apple be grown inside the earth? Why is it supposed to be on a tree? Everything has been fixed by the Supreme Lord. And this system is set by him, and everyone is following the system. As the sun rises and sets, the seasonal changes ensue at the appointed times by the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the seasonal plants, flowers, herbs, and trees all grow under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It is not that plants grow automatically without any cause, as the atheistic philosophers say. Rather, they grow in pursuance of the supreme order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, there is so much propaganda to deny the existence of God. It is so much inbuilt in us. Since we are children, everywhere we are bombarded with the idea that God does not exist, that man is independent, that man is God. Okay, now you don't realize it, but one day you'll become God. That there is no God, everything is just some energy, everything is just some power. This propaganda is so much denying the existence of God. But we simply have to hear our Shastras, the Vedic literature. The Vedic literatures, each and every literature speaks about the supremacy of God. So it is confirmed in the Vedic literature that the Lord's diverse energies are working so nicely that it appears everything is being done automatically. So this is the potency of God. This is his intelligence. He's God, you know, after all. Who can challenge his intelligence? Who can challenge his system? You know, we see company which is really well managed, very proper systems, up to date. They're what do you say? Very efficient. There is no wastage, and everything is going on so automatically. We see that in the material world. So imagine the system of God. Why imagine? We can see the material nature. That is the system of God. Everything is happening so perfectly, so perfectly. And this is one of the tiny energies of God. Krishna says to Arjuna, what use is of so much knowledge? I am sustaining and pervading this entire universe just by a fragment of myself, you know, just by the Paramatma. The Paramatma is doing all these things. So Shavanti Sarito Bhitan Notsar Pati Uddha Dhiryataha Agnir Indesa Giribhir Burnam Machati Yad Bhaya. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the rivers flow, and the ocean never overflows. Out of fear of him, only does fire burn, and does the earth with its mountains not sink in the water of the universe. You know, the earth, how heavy the earth is, how many mountains are there? It's really heavy. It's not sinking. It's not sinking. It's still floating in its place. All the planets are floating in their orbits. Why? Under the will of the Supreme Lord. It's God's system. We can understand from the Vedic literature that this universe is half filled with water on which Garbhodakshay Vishnu is lying. So this universe, it's like an egg. Half of this universe, the bottom half, is filled with water. And that water is called the Garbhodaka ocean. And on this ocean lies Garbhodakshay Vishnu. From his abdomen, a lotus flower has grown. And within the stem of that lotus flower, all the different planets exist. The material scientist explains that all these different planets are floating because of the law of gravity or some other law. But the actual lawmaker is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You see, we are saying, yes, law of gravity. Oh, yes, I'm so knowledgeable, I'm so educated, I know this is happening because of law of gravity. But the sign of intelligence is when we question who has created this law of gravity, not just simply discovering. That simply by discovering, it's a very minimal part. But the intelligence is and asking, well, who has created this gravity? That is really a great sign of intelligence, this gravity. So when we speak of law, we must understand that there must be a lawmaker. Each of us, we are in different countries. We abide by the laws of that country. So who's the lawmaker in that country? That we need to question. Who is the lawmaker? Is it that the laws, suddenly we woke up in the morning and then the laws were created by itself? No, there is the judicial system. So God, the nature's laws are made by God. The material scientists can discover laws of nature, but they are unable to recognize the lawmaker. And this is where the entire unrest comes from, the entire, disunity, all the nuisance we see in society that's going on, simply because we have moved away from God consciousness. Because of that, the state of the world is in it. The world we are in right now is because we have moved very far away from being God conscious without accepting, understanding the supremacy of God. From Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, we can know who the lawmaker is. The lawmaker is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said here that the planets do not sink since they are floating under the order or energy of the Supreme Godhead. They do not fall down into the water, which covers half the universe. All the planets are heavy with their various mountains, seas, oceans, cities, palaces, and buildings, and yet they are floating. It is understood from this passage that all the other planets are floating in the air, have oceans and mountains similar to those on this planet. So there are so many planets that we see in the night when we look out. We see so many planets. It's not that they're just for decoration, for our pleasure. No, there's living entities in there. They have their own atmosphere. They have their own mountains, own oceans, own rivers. We have the knowledge of them from the scriptures, but each of them are floating in their own orbit by the system that God has made. So we'll stop here. Did anyone have any comment or any question? If no, then we'll stop here for today. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening in and joining in. Hari Bol.